I hope you're having a wonderful day and welcome to this new Blender tutorial in which we're going to learn how to make the animation you're watching right now on the screen. It's really fun to make and it doesn't take as much time as you would think it does. And the product you get is really beautiful. So without anything else to say, let's just begin with the tutorial. For this animation, what we're going to do is to select the light and delete it, and then delete also the camera we have right here, and we're gonna stay only with this little cube. And we're gonna press Shift A to add a new cube, and then G and Y to move it in the Y axis to the right. We're gonna rename this cube as Instance. And we're gonna go to the material properties right here and add a new material for the cube we have on the right. And rename this material to cube, the one we have in the original cube, and then the material we have in the instance, rename it to instance. Now we just have to add a little sphere right here on the top. Let's make it a little bit smaller and scale it a little bit down with the letter S and put it right on top of our cube. And now click into the cube and go into the geometry nodes panel. Close this little window in the left by dragging from this corner to the left. And now press right here in new. We're gonna get this little wire right here, and in this wire we're gonna add a Shift A and then press S in your keyboard and right here instance on points. We're gonna put this node right here in the line, and you can see that our mesh disappeared right now. So we're gonna press Shift A again and then S and add a join geometry node. We're gonna put this join geometry right here, and what this is going to let us do is to plug this geometry into the geometry right here and see again our cube. Once we've done that, I'm gonna move this a little bit to the left. We're gonna press Shift A and S to search a node, and that's what you have to do every time you want to search a node. And we're gonna put in distribute points and faces and put it right here in the side for a while. First we're gonna press Shift A and search for an object info node and plug the geometry into the instance. And take this little eyedropper we have right here and select the instance cube we have right here on the right. And now we have 4 cubes instanced in each of our cube corners. And for us to change that, we have to plug this distribute points on faces node right here. What that will do is that we're gonna have 10 cubes instanced in each face of our principal cube. And that's because we have in the density a value of 10. So this is all we have to do to instance the cubes right now. We're not gonna touch anything else right here because first we want to fix the size of our instances. So we're gonna press Shift A S and search for a geometry proximity node. Here it is. And we're gonna add our controller or our little sphere into the scene by dragging it from here. And this is going to automatically create the object info node that we had before, but already with the sphere right here. So we're gonna change this to relative and then plug the geometry into the target and the distance into the scale right here. We can see something is already happening with the scale of our cubes. We have to invert this value and we're gonna use a float curve. Let's press Shift A S, float curve, and plug it right here. And then pick the left one and bring it up, and pick the right one and bring it down. And now it's happening exactly what we want to happen. When we get the object further away, the cubes disappear. And now we're gonna select back our cube and come here to the geometry nodes panel and press Shift A S and add a math node. Right here, press Shift V to duplicate it and put it in the right of our float curve. What these two nodes are going to be controlling, basically this one on the left is going to control the size of our effect, and the ones on the right are going to change the size. But right now they're not well configured because they're adding a value and we want them to multiply the value we're getting. So right now we can make the biggest cubes even bigger and then make the effect a little bit smaller, something around here maybe. And now we can make this even smaller. With this curve, you can make the effect, instead of being linear, you can drag from here and make it like a little ease. And right now they're almost disappeared, but we can put this point right here and we can see. So now what we have to do is to increase the number of points we have in each face for the effect to look cooler. So we're gonna put something around 200, and now we get this beautiful effect right here. To put some material into this, I want the material not only to be a uniform material for all the cubes, but also that when the cubes are closer to the controller, the color of the cubes changes as well. So we're gonna take this value, that is the one that is determining the scale right here, and we're gonna plug it into the output. And we can see right now it already created a new attribute called value. And before we do anything else, we have to add right here and realize instances. So now once we've done this, we can press N to open this little menu on the right, go to group, and right here we have the attribute we just created. We're gonna select this value and put something like color right here, and then come to the modifier properties and open output attributes, and right here something like call. We can press N again to close this little menu right here if it uses a lot of space. So now we can go to the shading viewport, and right here we have to make sure we have the instance selected, and right here it says instance, and we're gonna add right here a color ramp, let's say, and put the color into the base color. And now press Shift A and S again to search for an attribute node, and this attribute we're gonna connect the factor into the factor, and then right here call the name we gave to the attribute we're gonna use. Right now we can change the color of this color ramp. Let's say we put in the borders something like really white, and then in the right side we're going to put a green color. We have to drag this controller a little bit to the left, and we can see how every time the color gets more and more sharp. So what we can do to change this is to make this value a little bit higher by adding right here a math node. We can put a math node and set this math node to multiply by 1.5, let's say, and now we can put this a little bit to the right. So we can change this value on the left to something like light green, and now the base color, the general color of our color ramp will be green. And if we want, we could even change this color to something like red, and you can see something interesting is happening right here, or maybe put a bluish color, and then you get this beautiful effect right here. This material just like this, and just bring a little bit higher the roughness for the reflections not to be that rough, and then select this sphere and put something like shade smooth. Press right click and shade smooth, and then add a new material right here and put it in the color. Well, in my case I'm going to put it in the color I have in the middle of this, for like to get a little bit of sense in our composition, but you can put the colors you want. You can even make it metallic if you want to by dragging this little thing up, and you can see the object is getting really metallic right here, but I'm going to bring the roughness up and this down. And now take the cube that is behind and set the base color into dark blue, that is something like what we have in the edges of our instances. And now we just have to go into the layout and just disable the viewport and the render view of this cube right here, because we don't want it to appear in our renders. And now we're gonna press Shift A and add a plane that we're gonna put below our cube, scale it a little bit, maybe not that much, and now press Shift A and add a camera right here. And now look your cube in a place where you like how it looks like in your composition, and press View, align active camera to view. And now you can press N, View, and camera to viewport. And now you can move around using your camera as your viewport, and you can put this in the position that you want, that I'm going to pick something around here. Uncheck the lock camera to view. Now select the plane you have below and rotate it for the back side of this plane to be in the same orientation that your camera, and scale it a little bit, let's say around here, so that we don't get the corners into the shot. And now go into the edit mode, press the number 2 in your keyboard and select the edge on the back. Press E and Z, and now you can extrude this edge up, and select this one you got right on the back and press Ctrl B and drag your mouse so you can create this bevel, and then move your mouse wheel up and left click. Now you exit the viewport, the editing mode, and press right click into your plane with the plane selected and press shade smooth. And now all we have to do is to turn on the render. Right now we're going to get this weird look of our scene, but to fix that we have to press Shift A, add a light, and bring it up here. And now we can put in here something like 150, maybe, yeah, 150 I think it's fine, because we're gonna press Shift D to duplicate this light and rotate it for it to look into the cube. We're gonna rotate it just like that first, and then in the Z axis by pressing R and then Z. Move it a little bit to the right so we light up the scene from the right, and then duplicate this light again and put it on the left of the object and point it towards our cube. And maybe duplicate this light right here and put it on the back for it to light up the back of our scene, the background basically, and put it up here so that the light points directly into our background, and maybe higher a little bit the power of this light in the back. Now we go to the camera view and we can see what is happening in our scene. And for it to look a little bit better, if you can activate the cycles view, and this will make an, I think it's nicer, but you can also use Eevee to render. And now change the device into GPU in case you count with a GPU, because this will make the rendering faster. And change the max samples in the viewport to something like 100, and then in the render to something like 200, because we're not gonna need more than that for this animation. And once you have this done, all we have to do is to animate this little sphere and maybe put a material into the background. For that we only have to press new with the background selected and put something. I would like to put a bluish color again, and maybe this ball right here, I'm going to drag it a little bit into the blue colors, and that's just perfect. Now to finish this tutorial, all we have to do is to animate this little ball, and for that we're going back to the solid view because we don't want the render to get our animation process all laggy. So we're gonna press 0 in our numpad and select this ball and bring it all the way up out of our camera view, and now press I and location, and we're going to go something like 30 frames forward, and then press G and Z to get it closer to our cube, and then press I and location again. We're going a little bit forward, maybe to frame 70, and move it to one corner. If you get a little bit lost, you can always go outside of our camera and go back with the 0 key in our numpad. Now press I again and set a location frame, then move this sphere down. But right here you can see the cubes have scaled too big and our sphere is like being trespassed by them. To fix that, all we have to do is to go back to the last frame we created, and you can see from here, from the top, that the sphere is too near to the faces of our cube, so we have to move it a little bit outside of the perimeter of the cube. And right here we press I again in the same frame that we had the last keyframe. And now we go a little bit forward, let's say 110, go back to your camera, move your object down in the Z axis, and to the left in the y-axis. And once you are around here, press I location, go a little bit forward and move it to the back. Press I and location and go forward, move it up, I location, and then back to the center of our animation, a little bit higher maybe, and then I location and go to the end of our animation and move it outside. And if we turn on the render, maybe if your computer doesn't handle it, please press Shift S to save our composition right now, because we're going to try to view the animation with the rendering turned on. So we're going to go right here to the back and press play to see what's going on in our scene. And you can see the scale is working perfectly, the colors too. And with all of that done, we just have to go to the scene properties and pick a folder where you want this animation to be kept, and come right here to the render menu and just press render animation and let the computer make the job. And that's how we finished this beautiful animation. You can see it's really simple, it didn't take much time, and the product we get is really nice. I hope you really liked this tutorial. If you did, please like and subscribe. Practice a lot, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial.